Hey everyone, welcome to the Happy Flosser podcast. My name is Billy Lunt. I am your host, and I am here to talk to you about all things dental hygiene to support you on your journey through the dental hygiene program. Welcome, so glad to have you. Hey, are you in dental hygiene school or just got your acceptance letter and just started dental hygiene school and you're worried about how you're going to fit it all in, what the evaluations are like, what the key strategies you need to set up in order to be successful? You don't want to have worked all this time to get accepted into dental hygiene school only to make some pretty major errors in your first and second semester. I've put together a course that will really help you set yourself straight right out of the gate and get yourself started on the right foot in dental hygiene school. Whether or not you're just entering school or you've done your prerequisites and you're just well on your way halfway through, this course is designed to help get you straight and keep you straight so that you can become a dental hygienist. Click the link in the show notes and check it out. In this episode, I wanted to share with you guys this book that I read, and it's all about breath. The book is written by James Nestor, and it's really the new science of a lost art of breathing techniques. And that is so related to dental hygiene because when we are doing our assessment, and you've seen all these continuing eds and lots of research being done on our airways as it relates to quality of life and sleep apnea and all of these dysfunctions that we're seeing. And the hygienist is poised to do these assessments. So this book just struck me, and the entire time that I was reading it, I was extremely focused on how I was breathing. And what James Nestor does, it's really great. He puts himself through all of these different breathing techniques and evaluates his own body. He has tests done on his blood pressure, his pulse rate, and just his overall feeling of how these breathing techniques impact his overall quality of life. And of course, these are all short stints and trials, but you get the idea from his perspective of how much of an impact our breathing has on the quality of our life. And I think it's great to just bring awareness to it. So I'm just going to read some of the excerpts from the front cover of the book. No matter what you eat, how much you exercise, how skinny or young or strong you are, none of it matters if you're not breathing properly. So, as a hygienist, we think about no matter how healthy you are, no matter how much you're exercising, what you eat is important, and how you take care of your mouth is important because we all know that that's the gateway to total body health. And I can say that from some of my own family members. My grandfather lived to be 103 years old. And for some reason, he was really good at taking care of his dentition and had all of his teeth. And I think that correlation has been overlooked. And that's how this book made me feel. I feel like breathing is something we just take for granted. It's one of those things like saliva. You don't miss it till it's gone, or you don't notice it until you realize that it's impacting your life in a negative way. And there's nothing more essential to our health and well-being than taking in air, right? If we're not taking in air, then we're not doing so well. But how we take in that air has become really important. And reading in this book some of these historical breathing techniques and why people do these techniques and how it impacts their life was really eye-opening for me. And what it's done in the clinical setting as a hygienist, it's just made me take a different approach to looking at the airway and just asking a couple of different questions about a patient. Early on in my career, I would determine that a patient was a mouth breather based on what that tissue looked like in Sextant 2. It always had a little reddish, shiny appearance, even if the patient had absolutely no biofilm and they were completely healthy, good home care habits. It always seemed to show in that Sextant 2 area if they were a mouth breather. And what this book did was it kind of peeled back a couple more layers to help me recognize some of the negative impacts of mouth breathing in general and how the absolute design of the nasal cavity for filtration and for air intake and for quality of the air that we're breathing is a really important component to everything else that goes on. I just, you guys learn all about the anatomy of the nose and the nasal cavity and our entire sinus, and we know how connected the sinus is to the oral cavity. But when you really start thinking about how it all truly functions and what that air does as it comes into the body, you really start recognizing how important it is to help patients recognize if they're mouth breathing and then give them some steps to try to become a nose breather again so that they can alleviate some of the signs and symptoms correlated with being a mouth breather. Modern research is showing us that making even slight adjustments to the way that we inhale and exhale can jumpstart athletic performance, rejuvenate internal organs, halt snoring, reduce asthma and autoimmune diseases, and even straighten scoliotic spines. None of this should be possible, and yet it is. And this is what James Nestor touches upon in this book. Now, when I opened the first pages of this book, I was a little bit skeptical. I was like, okay, it's breathing, right? When I think of meditating, I think of concentrated breathing. When I think of being present in the moment, I think of concentrating on my breathing. But I don't necessarily think of total body health when I think of breathing. And yet, so many of the small um, trials that he shows in this book all go back to the impact of our breathing. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I just approached this book with a little bit of bias that I shouldn't have had, because as a hygienist, I know that if we can just control the biofilm, we can alleviate so many other health issues throughout the body and so many different chronic illnesses that are associated with the condition of our mouth and our oral health. So, why is it that I would think that it wouldn't be any different with air? I just think I was probably taking it for granted. So, drawing on thousands of years of medical texts and recent cutting edge studies on pulmonology, psychology, biochemistry, and human physiology, breath, this book turns the conventional wisdom of what we thought we knew about our most basic function on its head. They really question everything. You will never breathe the same again after you read this book. It was quite interesting as I was reading each one of the studies that James was conducting on himself. He would put himself through these trials where maybe he would plug his nose for 2 weeks and just be a mouth breather. And he would have assessments prior to doing the study and then assessments after doing the study. And as I'm reading the results of the study, I find myself mouth breathing as I'm reading the book. And then there's so many different techniques he talks about in the book, and I was finding myself doing several of them. One of the most surprising things I found out in the book was the benefit of carbon dioxide. Because in my brain, so say you get sick and you go to the hospital, what do? They put oxygen on you, they give you oxygen. So I never really thought about the benefits on our health and our systems with carbon dioxide. I always think that's something that CO2 is the stuff you need to get rid of out of the body, and that it's all about how much oxygen you have. And I think that was probably the most profound thing I learned in reading this book is some of the benefits of your CO2 levels, which kind of just shocked me a little bit. So thinking about myself as a runner, because I'm not a really good runner. And I've always said that to myself, right? That's one of my limiting beliefs. I'm not good at running. So after reading this book, I went for a run and tried to change how I was breathing while I was running. And I have to share, I was able to run twice as far just the very first time, being a kind of a clunky breather and implementing some of these strategies that James Nestor talks about in his book. So I was thinking, wow, just by controlling my breathing a little bit and keeping a little more CO2 in my lungs a little longer, I was actually able to perform better in just this little time. So I did like my own experiment because I know the challenges I have when I go running. I feel like I'm going to die because I'm breathing so fast and my body, I just don't feel like I'm getting enough oxygen. And it's actually the opposite. And so for those of you out there that are runners or know what I'm talking about are probably thinking, how come she didn't know this? Well, for myself, when I start jogging and running, and I know that people find themselves in a balanced situation, um, I just start breathing really hard, and then I don't feel like I'm getting enough air for my muscles and all of my systems. And then I have to like go to a walking stride and then regain myself and then pick up the pace again. So after reading this book, I started trying to really focus on how fast I was breathing. And just that one little experiment changed everything. So when I think about some of the things that our patients struggle with when it comes to their health concerns and some of their sleeping issues and their airway problems and all the different contributing factors to their chronic illnesses, is this something that we're just simply overlooking in our assessment? And is this something that we could easily implement as part of our assessment to find out if we can't help our patients have better breathing habits? Just a thought process. I'll throw that out there to you all. Um, I just feel like the hygienist is the perfect person to really take a look at that, because the quality conversations that we have about all the things related to our patients' habits and situations, and we're the people that kind of connect the dots, and then we share that information with the dentist, and we can have an impact on our patients with some of the most simple changes if we just are aware of it. And so that awareness for me came by reading this book, and that's why I wanted to share that with you. And you can take that information and do whatever you want with it. You can go read the book. You can just try it out yourself, do a little mouth breathing, see how you feel, recognize if you're a mouth breather. Maybe just start asking your patients about how they breathe and are they a mouth breather. Maybe you incorporate just an additional question into your assessment when you're taking a look at the airways and judging the sleep apnea issues for our patients. Whatever you choose to do, I just wanted to bring awareness to James Nestor's book because I thought it was really wonderful. So I hope you're having a great week. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. If I didn't have you listening, there'd be no reason for me to continue recording this podcast. But I just love the community that's been created through this episode. Thank you. I would invite you to send me any questions that you need answered. Questions come up when you listen to this podcast. I have a link in the show notes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Also, I would appreciate a review if you have time to leave one. Thank you so much.